What a lovely little tunnel. Not seen it before. If you're familiar with long distance walking trails, and you've maybe done a few, you'll know that not every day is a great day. You know, if you're doing the whole walk all in a one-way. There's some days that are perhaps not as good as other days, days where you're maybe a bit tired, or there's just not the same number of views or things to see. Today is not one of those days. I'm on the John Muir Way again. It's a short 6-mile walk between here, Bonnybridge and Falkirk. And that short 6 miles is kind of packed with stuff. There's a great view at one point, and there's a good bit of history, interesting things to think about. And I finally just set up a camera, and as I say, I've not seen this before. This commemorates the Battle of Muir. Yeah, wonderful. Bonnybridge is something of a hotspot for UFOs ever since I think 1992, when a star-shaped object was seen to hover in the sky, and there's been a lot of sightings since then. Indeed, Bonnybridge is part of what is said to be the Falkirk Triangle, just an area that's full of mystery and intrigue. I am inclined to think that the UFO thing in Bonnybridge is more to do with electricity than anything, because if you just come to the area, or even look at an ordinary survey map, you'll see a lot of electricity pylons and power lines in the general area. There's even a pretty large substation not that far away. And I think this is to do with the electricity that's perhaps run amok at some point and formed itself into little balls of power or something. I don't know. But I think it is to do with electricity. That said, you never know, there might be something up there that is interested in our electricity and what we're doing with it. You never really know. But certainly if you come to Bonnybridge today, let me assure you that there is no such thing as aliens or spaceships. So let's just get down to walking on the John Muir Way, and it's going to be a cracking day. So let's go. Well, this is the ramparts or defences of Rough Castle, a Roman fort on the Antonine Wall, which is also on the John Muir Way. This lovely little historical section of it. And it's called Rough Castle because it was rough. Yeah, very rough. You think it's rough in Partick? No, this was rough, yeah. You might chat the gate and say, I've come from a weekly bath, at which point you'd get your arm up your back and you'd be thrown back out to the north. Rough. This was a very well defended Roman fort, Rough Castle. In addition to banks and ditches, they were quite extensive. You had additional defensive features like this, a number of pits that were dug into the ground, and you maybe had sharpened spikes at the bottom. And perhaps they might even have been covered over with twigs and bits of trees and stuff so that you maybe wouldn't initially have seen them. Very well defended. They really didn't want us Scots coming in to make use of their bathing facilities.
Raise your arm, wash your armpit. Raise your arm, wash your armpit. Raise your arm, wash your arm.
The Battle of Falkirk Muir was pretty massive, each side having around 8,000 men. A combination of the large numbers and the lie of the land meant that at times commanders on both sides were struggling to see what was going on. It was the largest battle of the 45 Jacobite Rising. Jacobites were led by Lord George Murray, while government forces were under the command of Major General Hawley. One British officer present at Falkirk was Major James Wolfe, notable as the officer who refused an order from the Duke of Cumberland to shoot a wounded Jacobite at Culloden just 3 months later.
The Battle of Falkirk Muir on the 17th of January 1746. I'm sitting in a battery. Wasn't a great battle. It was, I'm not sure if I could use the word messy. It was a messy battle. It was a battle, men died. I think hundreds of men died. So it was a serious affair, but it just wasn't great for either side, either the Jacobites or the British Army. I mean, at one stage the Jacobites put on a good performance, if that's the term, by giving very effective musket volleys that at one stage dropped about 80 dragoons in one volley. But a section of the Jacobite army, having done their Highland charge, and the Highland charge was basically they would fire their muskets, throw their muskets away, draw their swords and just run hell for leather towards the enemy. And that was a scary thing if you were on the wrong side of that. And having done their Highland charge, a section of the British army just turned and ran. It was too much for them, understandably so. But the mistake that those Jacobites then made was to chase after them and effectively leave the field of battle and start pillaging the British camp and such like. And in leaving the field of battle, the battle was still on. And it just demonstrates a real lack of discipline within the Jacobite army. And that's one thing in favour of the British army is discipline. You need discipline, and without it, you're just a rabble. It's much harder to win battles when you don't have discipline. And some more, I think some of the militia or kind of troops in training, you might say, soldiers that hadn't maybe seen action also left the field. Too much for them. Whereas I say the battle was still taking place, so one unit of British soldiers was doing a really good job, doing what they were meant to do, standing in lines, firing off volley after volley of musket fire that was dropping any number of Jacobites. But in the end, I think a combination of poor light and bad weather, I think it was a bit stormy, meant that in the end the British army just sort of, those that were left, just sort of left the field. I'm not sure if you could use the word retreat or run or flee or whatever. They just left the field. Along with a lot of Jacobites who, as I said, had kind of gone chasing after some of the other British soldiers. So in the end it was just a sort of, I mean, it is said that it was a victory for Jacobite forces, but it was, I don't really know if you could call it that. It was just, as it said in the information panel back there, the British soldiers voluntarily left the field, not under any great duress, at least one particular unit, and in so doing perhaps denied the Jacobite army what you might term a proper victory. In that respect, as I say, it was a kind of messy battle. And the terrain played a big part, as it does in many battles. There was a pretty steep ravine, and the lie of the land wasn't flat, and the British Army couldn't deploy their cannon. I think if they had been able to deploy them, if the lie of the land had been different, this could have been a different battle. But one thing that the British Army learned from this battle was that in order to defeat the Jacobites and stand up to the Highland charge, all you had to do was stand your ground, which is easier said than done. You know, you don't win battles by running away, and no matter how scary the Highland charge was, you had to stand your ground in several lines, simply giving off volley after volley of musket fire. And when it came to the stage where you were going to be actually coming into contact with the enemy and having hand-to-hand combat, bayonets against swords, again you had to stand your ground. And the British Army learned that instead of bayoneting or trying to bayonet the person who's attacking you from the front, if you can have the courage and the discipline to actually bayonet the guy on his right, the guy who has his sword arm up and who's about to strike your mate who's standing on your right, if you can do that, that's perhaps a weak point, because the guy coming at you's probably got his shield in front of him. If you can go for the guy on the right with your bayonet, he probably doesn't know you're going to do that, and if you can get in, that's maybe a way of dealing with this Highland charge. And the British Army put that procedure in place just 3 months later at the Battle of Culloden, and we all know how the Battle of Culloden went. It was a victory for the British Army, and a day that saw the end of the Jacobite cause and the Stuart line to the throne. It was also a horrific few days that came after that battle. The atrocities, as I may have touched on in another video, were quite unbelievable. And incidentally, I'm going to end the video here rather than just go back to the monument. I may follow this trail for a bit, but I'm just going to pick up the John Muir Way again. I'll end the video here. But I think if there's just one thing that a civilised country should have done after the Battle of Culloden, it was to hang the Duke of Cumberland, or Butcher Cumberland, who was in charge of the British Army at the time, because he was responsible for the atrocities that took place. But it's been a short section of the John Muir Way that's been just absolutely packed with history. But right now I'm thinking I should have eaten the other banana. I'm starting to flag a little bit. Until the next time, bye for now.